In a peaceful suburb of Boston, Massachusetts, the Green family appeared to be the epitome of the American dream. Their two-story home, complete with a white picket fence and a neatly trimmed lawn, was situated at 1542 Maple Street. Neighbors frequently saw Martin Green, a distinguished cardiac surgeon, driving off to work in his black Mercedes. His wife, Sarah, a former teacher turned homemaker, was known for organizing charity events at the local church. Their adopted son, Alex, a promising medical student, was seen as a bright and gifted young man. On the surface, everything seemed idyllic. The Greens were well liked at social gatherings and were often regarded as a model family. However, behind the closed doors of their home, a far different story was unfolding, a story filled with forbidden desires, betrayal, and tragedy, culminating in a double murder on March 17, 2023. The usual calm of Maple Street was shattered by the sound of police sirens that day. Neighbors watched in disbelief as two bodies, sealed in black bags, were carried out of the Green residence. Not long after, they saw Sarah Green being led away in handcuffs. These events shocked not only the suburb's residents but the entire nation as the details of the case became public. Martin Green was born on September 5, 1975, into a family of doctors in Providence, Rhode Island. From a young age, he was surrounded by medical books and discussions about complex surgeries. His father, George Green, was a renowned neurosurgeon, and his mother, Elizabeth, worked as an anesthesiologist. It was no surprise that Martin developed an interest in medicine early on. In school, Martin demonstrated remarkable abilities, especially in the natural sciences. He graduated from high school with honors and was accepted into Harvard University's medical school. During his time there, Martin proved to be a talented and driven student, often staying late in the lab and library. After graduating, he completed his residency at a prestigious clinic in Massachusetts, specializing in cardiac surgery. His diligence and skill did not go unnoticed, and soon the young doctor began assisting in the most complex heart surgeries. By the age of 35, Dr. Green had earned a reputation as one of New England's top cardiac surgeons. He regularly performed challenging operations, saving the lives of patients whom other doctors had refused to treat. His articles were published in leading medical journals, and his lectures attracted full audiences of students and practicing physicians. Outwardly, Martin appeared to be a man completely devoted to his work. He often stayed late at the hospital and spent his weekends attending medical conferences. Colleagues noted his meticulous nature and attention to detail, traits that were crucial in his profession. Sarah Green, née Anderson, was born on July 12, 1978, in the small town of Concord, New Hampshire. Growing up in a family of schoolteachers, she developed a love for education and a desire to help others from a young age. After high school, Sarah enrolled in Boston University's Faculty of Education, where she proved to be a dedicated and capable student. While studying at the university, Sarah met Martin Green at a charity event. The two quickly bonded, and before long, they began dating. Their relationship progressed rapidly, and in 2001, just a year after meeting, they were married. After the wedding, Sarah took a job as an English teacher at a local high school. Colleagues and students alike praised her as a caring and attentive educator. She was actively involved in school life, organizing literary events and helping struggling students. However, Sarah's career was short-lived. When Martin's career as a surgeon took off, Sarah decided to leave her job to focus on family and charity work. She became an active member of the local community, organizing fundraisers for hospitals and shelters and participating in volunteer programs. Despite their outward success, Sarah and Martin struggled for years to conceive a child. After several unsuccessful attempts and consultations with doctors, the couple decided to adopt. In 2008, they adopted a 3-year-old boy named Alex. Sarah fully embraced her role as a mother, caring for Alex, helping him with his studies, and supporting his interests. To the outside world, the Green family seemed perfect: a successful husband, a devoted wife, and a talented son. However, beneath this facade, their relationships were becoming increasingly strained. Over time, Sarah began to notice that Martin was growing distant. He often stayed late at work, missing family dinners and events. She attributed this to his demanding job, but feelings of loneliness and dissatisfaction continued to grow. Sarah made efforts to rekindle their relationship, planning romantic evenings and vacations, but her attempts seemed to fall on deaf ears. She eventually sought help from a psychologist, hoping to understand her feelings and find a way to improve her family life. Yet, no one around her suspected the turmoil she was experiencing. To everyone else, she remained the perfect wife and mother, always smiling and willing to lend a hand. But inside, the tension was building. Alejandro Garcia, later known as Alex Green, was born on April 22, 2005, in a small town in the state of Chiapas, Mexico. His early years were marked by poverty and hardship. His biological parents, seasonal workers on coffee plantations, died when their dilapidated home collapsed, leaving Alejandro an orphan at the age of 2. He spent the next year in a local orphanage. In 2008, Alejandro's life took a dramatic turn when he was adopted by Martin and Sarah Green. The couple, who had long struggled to have a child of their own, saw a photo of the boy in an international adoption database and immediately felt a connection. After a lengthy process of paperwork, Alejandro, who was given the new name Alex, arrived in the United States and became part of the Green family. The first few years in his new home were challenging for Alex. He had to adjust to a new culture, learn English, and get used to his new parents. Sarah devoted herself entirely to helping him overcome these challenges, while Martin, though less involved due to his demanding job, tried to bond with his son by teaching him chess and sharing his love of medicine. Despite their best efforts, Alex struggled to fit in socially. He was often withdrawn at school and rarely participated in group activities. Despite struggling to form friendships, teachers acknowledged Alex's high intelligence and aptitude for the exact sciences, but they also noted his introversion and preference for solitude. As he grew older, Alex became increasingly interested in his heritage. He began learning Spanish, exploring Latin American literature, and delving into the history and culture of Mexico. This connection with his roots made him feel more complete, yet it also deepened his sense of alienation from his peers. In high school, Alex developed an interest in medicine, possibly influenced by Martin. He could spend hours listening to his father's stories about intricate surgeries and medical breakthroughs. This interest brought them closer together, and over time, a particularly warm relationship blossomed between Alex and Martin. By the time Alex graduated high school, he had transformed into a handsome young man with a sharp intellect and a complex inner world. He enrolled in medical school, intending to follow in his adoptive father's footsteps. However, behind this outward success and well-being lay deep emotional issues and unresolved conflicts related to his identity and past. The relationship between Martin and Alex began to shift when Alex turned 18. By then, he was already a first-year medical student, attending lectures often given by Martin. Their shared passion for medicine and science became a foundation for deeper communication. It all started with innocent conversations after classes. Martin admired Alex's sharp mind and determination, seeing in him a reflection of his younger self. Alex, in turn, respected Martin's professionalism and experience, viewing him not just as a father, but also as a mentor. Their meetings became more frequent and extended, with discussions that range from complex medical cases to the latest scientific discoveries and the philosophical aspects of medical ethics. These conversations gave both a sense of intellectual connection that they lacked in other relationships. The turning point came during a joint trip to a medical conference in Chicago. Away from home and familiar surroundings, in an atmosphere filled with scientific excitement and new experiences, a physical attraction developed between them. After one of the evening sessions, alone in a hotel room, they gave in to these feelings. The realization of what had happened brought a mix of emotions, fear, shame, but also the thrill of a forbidden connection. As the older and more experienced, Martin tried to rationalize the situation, convincing both himself and Alex that it was a momentary lapse that needed to be forgotten. However, Alex, with the intensity and passion of youth, couldn't easily dismiss the feelings that had emerged. Upon returning home, they attempted to resume their previous father-son relationship, but the spark between them didn't fade. Secret meetings, furtive glances, accidental touches, all of this created a tension that became increasingly hard to ignore. Martin, aware of the wrongness of what was happening, tried multiple times to end the relationship. He told Alex about the importance of focusing on his studies, about his responsibilities to his family, and about social and moral norms. But each time, seeing the pain and despair in Alex's eyes, he couldn't resist. Alex, on the other hand, was experiencing an internal conflict. On one side, he felt a deep attachment and attraction to Martin. On the other, he was tormented by guilt towards Sarah, who had always been a loving and caring mother to him. Their secret relationship continued for almost a year. They would meet in hotels under the guise of working together on scientific projects or attending medical symposiums. Each meeting was a blend of passion, tenderness, and the agonizing awareness of the wrongness of what they were doing. Both understood that their connection couldn't last forever, and with each passing day, the risk of being discovered increased. Martin increasingly spoke about the need to end the relationship, but Alex, with his youthful intensity, couldn't accept the idea of separation. This situation created growing tension between them, threatening to spiral out of control at any moment. While Martin and Alex were leading their secret life, Sarah continued her usual routine, unaware of what was happening. However, over time, she began to notice subtle changes in the behavior of her husband and son. Martin became more distracted, often missing family dinners, citing urgent surgeries. Alex, in turn, seemed more withdrawn and tense, avoiding long conversations with his mother. At first, Sarah attributed these changes to stress from work and studies. She tried to create a cozier atmosphere at home, organizing family evenings and weekend trips. But her efforts seemed to have no effect, and the tension in the family continued to grow. The turning point came on March 15, 2023. On this day, Sarah had planned a surprise for Martin, a romantic dinner to celebrate the anniversary of their first meeting. She canceled all her plans and spent the whole day preparing. However, Martin didn't come home at the expected time, and his phone was turned off, which was extremely unusual for the always accessible doctor. Worried, Sarah began calling hospitals and her husband's colleagues, but no one had seen Martin after his shift ended. In desperation, she called Alex, hoping that her son might know where his father was, but Alex also didn't answer her calls. Driven by anxiety and suspicion, Sarah decided to check Martin's office, which she usually avoided out of respect for his personal space. There, in a desk drawer, she found an envelope with photographs. What she saw shocked her to the core. The photographs captured intimate moments between Martin and Alex, taken in various places: hotel rooms, on the beach, in a car. The dates on the back of the photos indicated that this relationship had been going on for nearly a year. Sarah was stunned. Her world shattered in an instant. The woman who had always prided herself on having a perfect family now faced the horrifying reality of betrayal and deceit. Her husband and adoptive son, the two people closest to her, had been leading a secret life behind her back. Sarah's first reaction was shock. She couldn't believe her eyes, going through the photos over and over, hoping it was some mistake or cruel joke. But with each passing minute, the reality became more apparent. Shock gave way to anger. Years spent building a family, sleepless nights with little Alex, endless support for Martin's career, all of this now felt like a mockery. Sarah felt betrayed, used, and deeply insulted. At that moment, she heard the front door open. Martin and Alex had returned home, unaware that their secret had been uncovered. Still holding the photographs, Sarah went downstairs to the living room, ready for a confrontation that would change the lives of the entire family forever. March 17, 2023, began like any other day for the residents of Maple Street. No one could have predicted that by evening, the quiet suburb would become the site of a horrifying tragedy. Events unfolded rapidly when Martin and Alex entered the house. They were met by Sarah, holding the incriminating photographs. The atmosphere instantly became tense. Sarah, unable to contain her emotions, started shouting, accusing her husband and son of betrayal and deception. Martin tried to calm his wife, but his words only fueled her anger. He admitted to the relationship with Alex, trying to explain his feelings while expressing regret. Alex, stunned by the situation, remained silent, unable to speak. Sarah, unwilling to listen to any excuses, grabbed a kitchen knife in a fit of rage. She lunged at Martin, the first blow striking his chest. Alex, trying to protect his father, stepped between them and was stabbed in the abdomen. The next few minutes were a chaotic blur of violence and screams. When Sarah finally stopped, she saw the results of her actions. Martin and Alex lay on the floor, bleeding profusely. The reality of what she had done crashed down on her with terrifying clarity. In shock, Sarah called the police and an ambulance. When the first responders arrived, they found her sitting on the floor next to the bodies of her husband and son, still holding the bloody knife. The paramedics pronounced Martin and Alex dead at the scene. Martin had suffered multiple stab wounds to the chest, and the abdomen area, one of which had penetrated his heart. Alex succumbed to a deep wound to his abdominal cavity, which led to significant internal bleeding. The police quickly cordoned off the scene, and detectives began interviewing neighbors, attempting to piece together the events that had unfolded. Several residents recalled hearing screams but dismissed them, assuming the Green family was simply watching television at a high volume. Sarah was apprehended at the scene of the crime without offering any resistance, appearing to be in a state of profound shock. She was taken to the police station for questioning. News of the tragedy spread rapidly throughout the town, with local TV channels interrupting their evening programming to deliver breaking news reports. Reporters gathered outside the Green residence, eager to obtain statements from neighbors and the police. Martin's colleagues at the hospital were stunned to learn of his death, with many struggling to believe that such a tragedy could strike a family that appeared so exemplary. Both students and faculty at the medical college where Alex studied also expressed their shock and sorrow. By the following morning, the entire country had learned about the double murder in Boston. The media began delving into the Green family's past, searching for an explanation for what had transpired. The story of a successful surgeon, his philanthropist wife, and their talented adopted son, ending in a bloody tragedy, captivated public attention. In the days following the incident, the Boston police conducted a comprehensive investigation. Detectives interviewed dozens of witnesses, including neighbors, Martin's colleagues, and Alex's classmates. They scrutinized the family's financial records, electronic communications, and phone conversations. A pivotal moment in the investigation was the discovery of Alex's diary, hidden beneath a floorboard in his room. The diary contained detailed accounts of his relationship with Martin, which corroborated Sarah's testimony regarding her motives. The forensic examination determined that both victims had died from multiple stab wounds. Blood analysis confirmed that neither Martin nor Alex had any traces of alcohol or drugs in their systems. Sarah, while in custody, initially refused to speak without a lawyer present. After consulting with her appointed public defender, she agreed to give a statement. In her testimony, Sarah provided a detailed account of the events leading up to the murders, including the moment she discovered the photographs. The psychiatric evaluation conducted as part of the investigation concluded that Sarah did not suffer from any mental illnesses that could have impaired her sanity at the time of the crime. However, experts noted signs of severe emotional stress and trauma triggered by the shocking discovery. The Massachusetts State Prosecutor's Office charged Sarah with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Given the severity of the crime and the risk of flight, the court denied bail. News of Sarah's arrest and the details of the motive behind the crime sparked a new wave of public interest in the case. The media began discussing the ethical implications of the relationship between Martin and Alex, as well as Sarah's psychological state. Heated debates ensued, with some expressing sympathy for Sarah, viewing her as a victim of circumstances driven to an extreme by the betrayal of those she loved, while others condemned her actions, arguing that nothing could justify a double murder. Sarah's defense team began preparing their case, focusing on the concept of a crime of passion. They intended to demonstrate that their client had acted under the influence of extreme emotional distress, not fully aware of her actions. The prosecution, on the other hand, argued that the murders were premeditated, pointing to the fact that Sarah had retrieved a kitchen knife, which they believed indicated intent. As the trial date approached, societal tension grew. The case of Sarah Green had evolved beyond a mere crime story, becoming a catalyst for broader discussions about family values, loyalty, and the limits of human endurance in extreme situations. Meanwhile, Sarah remained in the county jail, awaiting the trial, with her lawyers visiting regularly to prepare her for the upcoming proceedings, which promised to be one of the most high-profile cases in Massachusetts history. The trial of Sarah Green commenced on September 5, 2023, in the Massachusetts Supreme Court. The courtroom was filled with representatives from the nation's major media outlets. The case drew attention not only because of the shocking circumstances of the crime, but also due to the Green family's status in society. State Prosecutor Jane Harris, in her opening statement, portrayed the crime as a calculated double murder. She emphasized that Sarah had sufficient time to contemplate her actions from the moment she discovered the photographs until Martin and Alex returned home. Harris argued that this was a premeditated act, driven by fury and a thirst for revenge. The defense, led by experienced attorney Michael Stone, built their case around the concept of a crime of passion. Stone contended that Sarah had acted under the influence of overwhelming emotional shock caused by the sudden revelation of her husband and adopted son's betrayal. He highlighted that, until that moment, Sarah had been a model wife and mother, deeply involved in charitable work, with no criminal record. During the trial, numerous witnesses were called to testify. Neighbors and friends of the Green family described them as the epitome of an ideal family. Martin's colleagues spoke of him as a talented surgeon and a respected professional, while Alex's classmates described him as a gifted and determined student. A critical moment in the trial was the presentation of Alex's diary. The entries read aloud in court revealed the depth and duration of his relationship with Martin, shocking those present and providing significant support for the defense's argument regarding Sarah's severe emotional distress. The psychiatric evaluation conducted prior to the trial was scrutinized in detail, with experts confirming that Sarah did not suffer from mental illness but was in a state of severe stress at the time of the crime. Sarah herself testified on the 5th day of the trial, delivering an emotional and sincere account. She spoke about the years spent in a happy marriage, the challenges and joys of raising an adopted child, and the moment she discovered the photographs and the subsequent confrontation. Sarah admitted that she acted as if in a daze, not fully aware of her actions. The closing arguments from both sides were intense and emotional. The prosecutor demanded the maximum punishment, stressing the brutality of the crime. The defense, in turn, urged the jury to show leniency, considering the extraordinary circumstances and Sarah's impeccable reputation up until that point. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Sarah Green was found guilty of manslaughter, rejecting the charge of first-degree murder. This decision reflected the jury's belief that Sarah was indeed in a state of intense emotional turmoil, but was still responsible for her actions. The judge sentenced Sarah to 15 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 10 years. The announcement of the sentence elicited mixed reactions both in the courtroom and beyond. Some felt the sentence was too lenient, while others believed it fairly considered all the circumstances of the case. The case of Sarah Green shocked not only Boston's residents but the entire nation, prompting deep reflection on the nature of family relationships, trust, and human emotions. The Green family tragedy unveiled hidden conflicts within what appeared to be an ideal life. They represented a model of success and family well-being, a respected surgeon, a devoted wife, and a talented adopted son. However, beneath this facade lay complex emotional issues, unmet needs, and forbidden desires. The story of Martin and Alex raises difficult questions about the boundaries of love and morality. Their relationship, though consensual, was taboo both in society and under the law. This prompts us to consider how prepared society is to accept non-traditional forms of love and where the line is drawn between personal freedom and social responsibility. Sarah's reaction to the revelation sparked intense debates about the limits of human endurance and the lengths a person might go to when faced with betrayal by those they love. Her actions, though legally condemned, garnered understanding from many who tried to imagine themselves in her situation. Sarah's trial became a reflection of society's conflicting views on crime and punishment. The jury's verdict and the judge's sentence demonstrated that the justice system can take into account complex emotional factors when assessing serious crimes. This story also raises questions about the media's role in covering such tragedies. The intense press scrutiny of the Green case led to widespread public discussion but also prompted ethical concerns regarding the detailed coverage of a personal tragedy. For the medical community, this case prompted a reevaluation of ethical standards and boundaries in relationships between colleagues and patients. Many medical institutions strengthened psychological support programs for their staff. In the field of adoption, the Green tragedy spurred discussions about the need for more robust psychological support for adoptive families, particularly in cases of international adoption. For the general public, this story served as a reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the importance of open communication within families. Many couples sought the help of family therapists to strengthen their relationships and improve mutual understanding. Ultimately, the Green family tragedy remains a bitter lesson in how easily what seems unbreakable can be shattered and how crucial it is to value and cherish those we love. It serves as a reminder of the complexity of human nature, the power of emotions, and the deep internal conflicts that can exist behind outward appearances of well-being. This story does not offer clear-cut answers or simple solutions. It leaves us with many questions about love, loyalty, forgiveness, and human nature, questions that each of us must answer for ourselves.